In the previous video, we learned how to use financial statement analysis tools and techniques to project financial statements. Now we focus our attention on the use of financial statement analysis to assess credit quality. Credit quality is concerned with credit risk. Credit risk is the risk of loss caused by a counterparty's or debtor's failure to make a promised payment. For example, credit risk with respect to a bond is the risk that the obligor, that is the issuer of the bond, will not be able to pay interest or principal or even both according to the terms of the bond indenture, which is the bond contract. Credit analysis is the evaluation of credit risk. It involves the credit risk of an obligor in a particular transaction or the obligor's overall creditworthiness. In assessing an obligor's overall creditworthiness, one general approach is credit scoring, a statistical analysis of the determinants of credit default. An example of the credit scoring is Altman's Z-score model given here. Altman found that financial ratios could be combined in an effective model for predicting bankruptcy. Altman's initial work involved the creation of a Z-score that was able to correctly predict financial distress. The Z-score is computed as given here, where Z is equal to 1.2 times current assets minus current liabilities divided by total assets plus 1.4 times retained earnings divided by total assets plus 3.3 times EBIT divided by total assets. In the initial study, they found that a Z-score of less than 1.81 predicted failure, and the Altman model was able to accurately classify 95% of the companies studied in their sample into a failure group and a non-failure group. The original model was designed for manufacturing companies only. However, subsequent refinements to the model allowed for other company types to be also analyzed. Generally, the variables that were found to be useful in prediction included profitability ratios, coverage ratios, liquidity ratios, capitalization ratios, and earning variability. Credit analysis for specific type of debt, for example, acquisition financing, project finance, and other highly leveraged financing, typically involve projections of period by period cash flows. This may be month by month, quarterly, or annual cash flow statements. Another technique used in credit analysis is to analyze business and financial risk factors. For example, in their descriptions of rating methodology, Standard & Poor's emphasizes the importance of business risk and financial risk. A company with less business risk has greater ability to take on more financial risk. Similarly, Moody's quantifiable rating factors for specific industries include business profiles. For example, revenue protection is assessed based on competitive factors, barriers to entry, and financial factors such as size of the firm and financial ratios. Whatever the technique adopted, the analytical focus of credit analysis is on debt paying ability, leverage, and coverage ratios. As an example, we are assessing the credit quality of two companies, Bombardier Incorporated and BAE Systems PLC, using financial ratios. The four ratios are EBITDA divided by average assets. The higher is this ratio, the better it is. Debt to EBITDA ratio, the lower it is, the better it is. Retained cash flow to debt ratio, the higher it is, the better it is. And free cash flow to net debt, again the higher it is, the better it is. BAE Systems is a better company in terms of credit quality compared to Bombardier, as indicated by all these four ratios. Its EBITDA divided by average assets ratio is higher than Bombardier, so its profitability on assets is relatively higher to the other company. It has a lower debt to EBITDA ratio compared to Bombardier. Similarly, its retained cash flows to debt is higher than Bombardier. At the same time, its free cash flow to net debt is higher and positive compared to Bombardier, which has a negative free cash flow to net debt ratio. Based on these four ratios, BAE has better credit quality and should be expected to be assigned a higher credit rating. Ratios constructed from financial financial statement and market data are often used to screen for potential equity investments. Screening is the application of a set of criteria to reduce a set of potential investments to a smaller set having certain desired characteristics. Criteria involving financial ratios generally involve comparing one or more financial ratios with some pre-specified target or cutoff values. Key decisions in this type of analysis include which metrics to use as screens, how many metrics to include, what values of those metrics to use as cutoff points, and what weightings to give each metric. Metrics may include not only financial ratios but also characteristics such as market capitalization or membership as a component security in a specified index. Stock screening tools are widely available from providers of financial data. Here we are using Google Finance, which is a screening tool. The example here is hypothetical. We have 4 screening criteria: companies that have PE ratio less than 15, total debt to total assets ratio equal to or less than 0.5, net income divided by sales greater than 0, that is positive profitability, and dividend yield of greater than 0.5%. Some criteria serve as checks on the results from applying other criteria. Here, the first criterion selects stocks that appear relatively cheaply valued given the PE ratio of less than 15. The stocks might be cheap for a good reason, such as poor profitability or excessive financial leverage. So the requirement for net income to be positive serve as a check on profitability, and the limitation on financial leverage such as total debt to total assets ratio of less than or equal to 0.5 serve as a check on the financial risk. Criteria are often not independent, so more securities pass the screening than if the criteria were independent. In this example, only 101 of the total number of companies, that is 1.95% of the securities, pass all the 4 criteria at the same time. For an example of the lack of independence, note that dividend paying status is probably positively correlated with the ability to generate positive earnings, that is the value of the third criterion. If stocks that pass one test tend to also pass another, few are eliminated after the application of the second test. The results of screens can sometimes be relatively concentrated in a subset of sectors represented in the benchmark. For example, the financial leverage criterion in this exhibit would exclude banking stocks. What constitutes a high or low value of a measure of a financial characteristics can be sensitive to the industry in which a company operates. Many research studies have assessed the most effective items of accounting information for screening equity investments. These studies have used accounting-based fundamentals, that is different financial ratios, to identify financially strong and profitable companies. To evaluate how a portfolio based on a particular screen would have performed historically, an analyst can use back testing, which applies the portfolio selection rules to historical data and calculates what returns would have been earned if a particular strategy had been used. The relevance of the back testing to investment success in practice, however, may be limited. For example, the price to earning or the price to book value can be used to identify growth stocks and value stocks and then form portfolios over the last 5 or 10 years and see whether value companies earn a higher rate of return compared to growth stocks or vice versa. Of course, we also have to consider risk here. As noted, there are limitations of back testing. There are 3 biases that have been identified in the literature with back testing approaches. The first one is the survivorship bias. If the database used in back testing eliminates companies that cease to exist because of bankruptcy or merger, then the remaining companies collectively will appear to have performed better. Then is the look ahead bias. If a database includes financial data that is updated for restatements, then there is a mismatch between what investor would have actually known at the time of the investment decision and the information used in the back testing. Back testing also suffers from data snooping bias. If researchers build a model on the basis of previous researchers' findings and then use the same database to test that model, they are not actually testing the model's predictive ability. Predictive ability of the model's rules can validly be tested only by using future data. Here we have two hypothetical screening strategies. Strategy A involves investing in stocks that are components of a global equity index, have a return on equity above the median ROE of all stocks in the index, and have a price to earning ratio that is less than the median price to earning ratio of the index. Strategy B involves investing in stocks that are components of a broad-based US equity index, have a ratio of price to operating cash flow in the lowest quartile of the companies in the index, and have shown increase in sales for at least the past 3 years. How would you characterize the two strategies? For example, strategy A appears to aim for global diversification, and it combines a requirement for high relative profitability with a traditional measure of low PE valuation. Strategy B, on the other hand, focuses on both large and small companies in a single market, that is the US market, and apparently aims to identify companies that are growing and have a lower price multiple based on cash flow from operations. Given these two strategies, what concerns might you have about using such strategies? The use of any approach to investment decisions depends on the objectives and risk profile of the investor. With that crucial consideration in mind, we note that ratio-based benchmarks may be an efficient way to screen for potential equity investments. In screening, however, many questions arise. Unintentional selection can be made if criteria are not specified carefully. For example, in strategy A, we might unintentionally select a loss-making company with negative shareholders' equity because negative net income divided by negative shareholders' equity arithmetically results in a positive ROE. Strategy B might unintentionally select a company with negative operating cash flow because price to operating cash flow will be negative and thus very low in the ranking. In both cases, additional screening criteria can be added to avoid unintentional selections. These additional criteria could include requiring positive shareholders' equity in strategy A and requiring positive operating cash flow in strategy B. Other considerations include differences in financial standards, accounting methods, and the estimates used. Implementation decisions can dramatically affect returns. For example, decision about the frequency and timing of portfolio re-evaluation and rebalancing and changes affect transaction costs and taxes paid out of the portfolio.